It's kind of like hazing, but for skincare. I didn't really think of that, but now when I think of that, this is kind of legit. How to use prescription strength retinoids without peeling. Look, we have the yellow shirt on, which means we're talking about retinoic acid, aka the most potent and bioavailable form of retinoid that you can put on your face. Fun fact, this is actually pure retinoic acid. It is basically this yellow powder. This is a lot. When you're using a retinoid, you're probably familiar with them over the counter as retinol or retinal. Those are wonderful and don't require a prescription. But if you're getting retin-A, retinoic acid, or tretinoin, that, my friend, is the potent stuff. Now, when people start using retinoids, they usually don't know what to expect. Most people aren't a skin intellectual like you, and they go through a phase of what's called retinization. Their skin peels, it flakes, it's painful. And that's actually the layers of your skin thickening, turning skin cells over faster, but the top layer is kind of sloughing off more because of this quick turnover. Here's an actual diagram of how this process works. What you need to pay attention to are these little molecules down here and how they kind of transform themselves into the most bioavailable form, how they bind right here to the RAR and RXR receptors, and then how that creates this cascade of events, this chain reaction that leads to EGF, epidermal growth factor, helping you build new, better skin. Now, unfortunately, some people peel, some people flake. They want the benefits, the anti-wrinkle, the anti-acne, the anti-scarring, but it's really hard to get through this initiation phase. It's kind of like hazing, but for skincare. I didn't really think of that, but now when I think of that, this is kind of legit. Well, here are 3 ways to start a prescription strength retinoid without irritation and without peeling. Basically 3 different methods. And the first one is something that I learned recently. It's called the quick contact method. This is basically applying your prescription strength retinoid kind of like a face mask. You're not overdoing it and you're not slathering it on in this big pasty sheet, but you're taking about 1.5 to maybe 2 times of that pea-sized amount you're supposed to use, spreading that all over the face. And you leave it on for 15 minutes, but then instead of leaving it on and going throughout your day, you actually wash it off. This quick contact method helps the retinoid get on your face, penetrate a little bit, but doesn't stay on for as long, so it doesn't cause as much irritation. This was actually recommended to me from dermatologist Dr. Adeline Kikam. She's amazing in Texas, an educator. She also does social media work online. Her name is Brown Skin Derm, and she is phenomenal. When she told me about this, I was like, what the heck? I need to try this. And let me just say, this has worked so well, not only for me, but for other people as well. Now, the second method to making sure that your retinoid doesn't overly irritate your skin is trying the sandwiching method. There are multiple ways to do this. When you think of a sandwich, you have 2 pieces of bread and your goods in the middle. Think about that like your tretinoin or your retinoid as well. You have your skin, apply some sort of piece of bread, maybe a moisturizer or an occlusive barrier. Then you can apply the goods in the middle, your tretinoin, prescription retinoid, the good stuff. And then you can seal it in with another layer of moisturizer if you so choose. Now, you can do this with a lightweight moisturizer, maybe what you're using in your routine every day. I still love the PSL moisturizer from Mediture, or even the Ulla Henriksen moisturizer if you want something really light and you're okay with fragrance. But if you want something thick and occlusive like Vaseline, you could put that on first. The retinoid will still penetrate through these moisturizers, but it gives them kind of a buffer. It kind of sandwiches them away from your face, which makes them a little bit easier to tolerate. Now, if you really want to go intense, you could do the opposite, where you actually put your retinoid on first, directly onto skin, and then you seal it in, like you sandwich it into the skin. So imagine it being like an inverted sandwich, and you're literally putting the retinoid right up against the skin and sealing it in with Vaseline or moisturizer to penetrate it into the face. That will give you more redness and irritation, but if your skin can handle it, or if you've built up your tolerance, man, that'll be perfect. But for most people, they're looking to avoid that irritation, so I would recommend something like a layer, a protective barrier, such as Vaseline or moisturizer, then the retinoid, maybe a little bit more moisturizer just to seal it all in. This kind of dilutes the retinoid, but still allows it to penetrate and do its work. And then titration. What is titrating? Basically doing things slowly. This is probably what the Dr. Derm recommended to you when they gave you this prescription in the first place. They said, don't use a pea-sized amount twice a day. Literally start maybe once a week, maybe 2 or 3 times a week. And after 3 to 4 weeks, you can gently, gradually increase the amount of times you're doing it per week. So instead of once a week now, you're doing it every other day. Instead of every other day, you're now doing it every day just in the evenings. And this is a way for your skin to build that tolerance, going low and slow instead of all at once, which can cause irritation. And once you get your skin used to that, your skin can handle retinoids and even other treatments much better. It just takes time to build up that tolerance. And this is usually the most frustrating for people because they're like, ugh, I don't want to wait. Like, I get it. I'm impatient. I am a child of the internet. I know. It can be really frustrating, but that is how doctors and derms usually prescribe it and how it is usually recommended. If you are trying the sandwiching method or if you are trying the quick contact method, again, doctors and derms do recommend this. This is where I've gotten this information from, but it's still a good idea to ask your prescribing physician or provider just to make sure that it's okay for you. If you're doing an online pharmacy like Dermatica or Apostrophe or Agency, which I love for dark spots and pigmentation, you can literally message them and say, is it okay if I use my Tretinoin or my prescription retinoid in this way? Or if you're seeing your dermatologist in person, bring them this video, send it to them, ask them, email it to the clinic, or even call them up on the phone and say, hey, I wanted to try this new method, is this approved? Just because you don't want to deviate from manufacturer's instructions, even though some other doctors and dermatologists do recommend it, especially those who are Harvard trained, Stanford trained, experts in their field, and even do education online. Overall, do remember to stay hydrated both orally and topically. Reapply that SPF, especially if you're wearing a retinoid, because what the f good is a retinoid if you're not wearing a sunscreen? Some of my favorites are listed down here. And overall, remember to be beautiful both inside and out. I love you, beautiful butterflies, and I cannot wait to see you in this next video. Love you guys. Bye.